maybe it's time. You're right. My pants were off within 30 seconds.
Okay, so there we go. At least one ballad on this episode Biv took his pants off for. That's a good thing.
News, reviews, interviews, and all things metal. From the Kensington Place Studios, it's According to Metal with Jason and Biv.
You better watch out. You better not cry. You better listen to Metallica, Hardwired, maybe, I guess. I'm telling you why. And that's because According to Metal is coming to town. Welcome to the According to Metal podcast, the December 2016 Ho 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 Holiday Edition of the podcast. We have one other episode we're going to do before the end of the year, don't you worry. But I'm glad that you guys are listening to us, whether you're listening to us on iTunes or Spreaker or Stitcher or the podcatcher of your choice, whatever it may be. Maybe you're listening to us on the Google Play. Maybe you're listening to us on a link that some metalhead friend of yours said, dude, check out this podcast. Either way, we are glad you are listening to the program because this episode, we have 5 reviews to do. Of course, we have Metallica's new one. We have Theocracy's new one. We have In Flames' new one. We have Sixx AM's new one. We have, what am I missing? We have Pretty Maids' new one. We also have that. We have the latest news to talk about in the world of metal. We have Biv's Best Band You Never Heard Of, which we'll get into Biv here in just a second, as I always like to do. And later on in the program, we're joined by a band both Biv and I are big fans of that no one's really heard much of. Speaking of Biv's Best Band You Never Heard Of, great band out of Minnesota, Matt Hodsdon, of course, from Chaos Frame is joining us later on in the program to discuss what's going on with his band and just, overall fun stuff we love to discuss with the people who join us on the program. But I am, of course, Jason, your co-host in the Kensington Place Studios, where it is a very, very chilly evening. It is December weather here in the Midwest of the United States. If you didn't know where we broadcast from, now you do. I'm sitting here with a bottle of empty now at this point, so at one point I'm going to have to, interrupt the show to get more booze. But I'm sitting here with a empty bottle of Evan Williams eggnog. All of the bourbon and eggnog is empty from the bottle. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's what that is. So that's that. I'm sitting here in my Circus Maximus beanie, freezing my ass off for you because I love you. And speaking of love, and by the way, that's a stack of stuff to discuss with you on this episode. So I'm so glad that you're here. And speaking of love, speaking of adoration, speaking of somebody who, when he's not listening to metal, he is meticulously preparing his Kwanzaa gifts that he's giving me personally. Biv, what's going on, man? You ready to talk some metal?
Well, yeah, I'm either doing that or I'm watching Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's one of the two. No,
one of the two. I thought, dude, what are you getting me for Kwanzaa? Is the question.
Well, a stuffed Rocky and Bullwinkle doll, of course.
Well, there you go. It works out. So, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or any holiday at all, happy freaking holidays from According to Metal. I'm glad that you guys are here. Biv, dude, you ready to talk some metal, man? We have a really cool show. I'm really excited to get started. What do you think?
Well, we do, and it's been a little bit since our last show because, sometimes life gets in the way and things happen. And, as most of our listeners already know, we don't do this for a living. We do this out of just pure love for metal. Jason and I have known each other a very long time, and, our friendship was kind of built on a mutual love for metal. And so, we do this, and this is always a big time of year for new releases. And so, as a result, we've got 5 reviews. We could have probably done 10.
Oh, geez,
Easy, because there's a lot. I mean, there's stuff we didn't even get in on this episode, but this is kind of the last hurrah for the year because, once you get into mid to late December, nobody releases anything now until about the end of January because if they figure if they've missed the Christmas mark, they're just not going to do anything until, late January, early February.
Yeah,
so
because we know those Christmas holiday metal album sales are huge.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's stacks of CDs under the tree. I mean,
absolutely. I know. Oh, sweet.
It's an In Flames CD.
Yeah, I got the latest Sepultura album. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I was thinking, All I wanted for Christmas was Testament, and I got it. Awesome.
Right.
But no, I don't know. Serious note. Biv, actually, you want to give them kind of a sneak peek of what we're going to do in the last episode, kind of our year-end closeout show?
Well, yeah, we kind of are. This was, obviously a year. This was our first year doing this. And, we experimented a little bit, and then we kind of found our own form. But in doing all that, and then we kind of took a little bit of a summer hiatus, there's some reviews that we missed of some really good albums throughout the year.
Correct. In which, speaking of that, I'm talking about getting Testament for Christmas, which would be a pretty sweet Christmas. Biff, if you're looking for a Kwanzaa idea, there you go. But I will tell you that that's an album that unfortunately didn't make the cut of this show, but you bet your sweet ass that's happening on the next and final episode of the year for According to Metal, because, oh man. Man, oh, man. Anyway.
Right. So, yeah, we, there's quite a few releases that we didn't get to cover for the year. So we're kind of going to do a mix of those CDs that came out that we didn't get a chance to review the first time around. And I guess a little bit of a, album of the year maybe in each genre.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think and again, we're having this conversation and recording it, but we've not had it actually yet. So you're hearing the brainstorming of the next episode of According to Metal. I think, we should probably just skip a guest and just really make it kind of an end of the year, kind of a best of what we thought of the year episode, and plus get some reviews caught up that we haven't done. I don't know what you think, but I think maybe that makes more sense.
No, I think that would make more sense for the next episode. So, what you're actually hearing right now on the podcast is what we would normally do off the air, but for whatever reason, we're sharing it with you now. So there you go.
Exactly, that's how we roll. But
you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek.
Well, speaking of things that are authentic conversation, let's talk some metal news, Biv. What do you say?
Oh, let's do that.
All right, man. It's the latest in metal news. Let's go.
It's time to give you some headlines. The metal news you need to know right now.
It's time to discuss the latest metal headlines, metal news going on in the world of metal. And, of course, we go to the guy who gathers all of that information, talks about the most interesting things that we can discuss. At least I hope it is interesting. I don't know. You'll learn when I learn, because here's a cool thing about our news segment. I have no idea what Biv's going to talk about or what direction he's going to take this conversation. Because, again, if this is the first time you're listening to the show, do know that Biv and I are friends who've talked metal for years, because that's what metalheads do that are friends. And then now we started doing a show together, and then rather than try to do a whole bunch of prep and sound polished and make it sound like, this is an authentic conversation, it's all rehearsed and all BS, we don't do that. I hear the stuff when you hear the stuff for the first time as I click record. So Biv, otherwise known as Huey Lewis in the news, I was just about to say it wrong again. Huey Lewis, what's the latest in the metal news world, man? What's going on?
Well, as you know, Metallica came out with their newest CD.
They did?
Yeah, I know, right? Nobody heard.
I didn't hear. I had no idea.
Well, every other article on every major metal news website is about Metallica.
Lars Ulrich broke wind today.
Right, exactly.
24 comments.
And some of it, and some, some of those articles do have something to them. Others are, Kirk Hammett thinks that Bud Light tastes better than Coors Light. Who cares? But
and he's goddamn wrong if that's what he thinks, by the way.
Well, that too. But at any rate, so Hardwired to Self-Destruct came out in November, and we've talked at length on this show about music sales and how difficult it is for a lot of the artists, unless you are a Metallica or you are an Iron Maiden, to make a living on album sales. Now, I do have some numbers for you.
Yeah, what are they?
Which Metallica did top the charts. Now, they topped the charts. This is the sixth time Metallica has topped the charts on their opening week of sales. And last time, of course, was with Death Magnetic in 2008, Saint Anger in 2003, Reload in 97, Load in 96, and, of course, the Black Album in 91. Now, they topped the charts their opening week with 291,000 equivalent sales, which essentially means a track is $1.29. 10 tracks comes out to $12.99, which is what the average, CD comes out to be. So when you take all that into account, they sold that many equivalent albums. And I'm sorry, not 292. I'm sorry, 282,000. So at any rate, by comparison, when you take that back to the previous albums.
Yeah, I was just going to say, thank you so much for that.
Well, just to kind of show you how far music sales have fallen off. If this is the number one album, now, Saint Anger, in its opening week, sold 418,000 copies.
Oh my God, that makes me want to vomit.
Oh, well, hold on, it gets worse.
Oh my God.
1996's Load.
Sorry, I may have to
Load
interrupt the show.
Opening week sold 680,000.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
Load does. I hate to say it.
The
Load
Black
makes
Album
sense.
was 598,000.
Oh, that is ridiculous.
All right. And Reload was 435.
Oh my God. I'm going to get sick.
So,
I'm gonna vomit. I swear to God.
Well, this just goes to show you, though, that people are not buying music today the way they were then. And we all know that. But now this is the first time we could put a quantifiable number to a major act that, they are the most downloaded band, I think, right now, or not just right now, but I think they're the most downloadable act, period, and have been for quite a few years. When you take into account all the different, not only sales, but Spotify streams and so on and so forth. So at any rate, this is the first time we've been able to, put a true number to it, just to kind of show you how far it's fallen off. But what's your take on all that, first of all, Jason, before I dive more?
It's amazing to me that, to your point, dude, Biv, right on. What a great way to start the news segment, because it's a great conversation to have. You have an album, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because, of course, we're going to be reviewing Hardwired to Self-Destruct later on in the broadcast, but I can tell you that this is the best album they've done since the Black Album. And that there's the tease for you. And I can tell you that it's just so disheartening to hear that, like, Saint Anger sells, like, 150,000 more copies of this album when Saint Anger was an absolute take a dump in a dumpster and light it on fire, and that was Saint Anger. And the fact that outsold Hardwired to Self-Destruct really, unfortunately, puts into perspective where music is nowadays. Either that or where metal is nowadays. And I don't think that's really true, because we're still looking at the number one album in America right now, which is pretty crazy, or at least at one point it was. So
I don't know if it is this week, but yeah, it opened up that way for sure.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing, and I hope I don't get ahead of myself here. I don't know, do you have any more Metallica news? Because I have thoughts on Metallica, so I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Well, no, I do have other Metallica news, but I don't think it's any direction you're going in, so go ahead.
Well, no, it's interesting to see when you're talking about music sales as a whole. Just to give you an idea, what I found kind of funny and what really made Metallica a target, for example, I have a friend of mine who's a big Metallica fan. He's the one who got me into Metallica. Owned all of his stuff, but have it be known that when Metallica, mainly Lars Ulrich, took such a hard stance on Napster and on Audio Galaxy, my friend, and this was a long time ago, this was way back in the day, would set an alarm on his cell phone on a daily basis to remind him to go onto Napster and download a Metallica song. I shit you not. Only to make Lars Ulrich mad. I'm not kidding. I mean, he's like, dude, I'm gonna download Creeping Death. I already own it. I don't care. I'm just gonna do it to piss off Lars. Like, I'm not kidding. That was his objective. So Lars and just music sales as a whole, the band was very at the forefront of saying, no, this is theft. This is bullshit. And at the time, I remember going come on, you guys are being just a bunch of, hoity-toity millionaire douchebags who have made it, and you're getting all